Okay, so good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. This is our last lecture for the module, and then we'll have 1 week of a practice session together, and then that's it. You'll be very expert in how to, construct and do your daily meditation practice, right? Okay. So, yeah, there's a lot we're going to cover today. So let's just jump right into it. And yeah, we'll do so. Just briefly adjusting our motivation, thinking the purpose of our life is to benefit all sentient beings. In order to do that, we need to fully develop all of our qualities and perfect our minds, abandoning all of the obscurations and faults. And we're doing that so that we can be of utmost benefit for sentient beings, seeing that, as the more qualities that we develop within ourselves, the more benefit we'll be able to be to others. And the very pinnacle of that development is the state of enlightenment. So even from the beginning of our practice and study, we set our goal on that, the state of enlightenment, so we can be of utmost benefit for sentient beings. So then, since we're trying to achieve this state beyond all suffering, the perfectly complete state of enlightenment, then we need to follow in the footsteps of the Buddha and practice the Dharma that he taught, and rely on the other practitioners within the so-called Arya Sangha, who have the qualities from having practiced the Dharma, and dedicating ourselves to this path, seeing the great benefits, and seeing how these 3 jewels of refuge, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, can protect us from the unwanted sufferings. Then we listen to this Dharma teaching so we can become Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. And so that's the essence of this verse. So we'll recite 3 times. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Okay. So, okay. Sorry, another screen share. So here we are again, right? Always keeping in mind the sort of big picture, what we're trying to do. So required topics. We, in our last session together, we finished this, going through the daily meditation on Shakyamuni Buddha here. Okay. Right. And now what do we have left? We have the prostrations to 35 confession Buddhas, how to do Vajrasattva meditation with the 4 opponent powers, benefits of living in the vows, and how to take the 8 Mahayana precepts, the importance of daily purification and daily rejoicing, and the importance of accumulation of merit and purification for success in one's spiritual life. Okay? So let's see. Can we do that all in one session? Yeah, we can. So probably better to start with these last 2, right? The importance of daily purification and daily rejoicing, and the importance of accumulation of merit and purification for success. Okay. So all of you here, I think you all did the module on karma, but this this concept, is coming up again and again. We see in the normal verse that I like to use for kind of summarizing the entire Dharma, right? Let's see. Hold on. Do a new screen share. Right, this verse that we have gone over many times, right? Do not commit any unwholesome actions, engage in perfect wholesome actions, subdue one's own mind. This is the teaching of Buddha, right? So, the Buddha, and motivated by great compassion for all sentient beings and wanting sentient beings not to experience any kind of suffering, then sought out to inquire as to the causes, as to why do we suffer, and what are also the causes of happiness. And the sort of discovery that he made and then taught in the Four Noble Truths is that our suffering is not coming solely from some external cause. Although, we do experience illness, we do experience external conditions which can be a contributing cause for our suffering. Fundamentally, the cause of our suffering is rooted within our own minds. And on a sort of more conventional level, on a more everyday level, this thought of karma, cause and effect, that our suffering is coming from unwholesome actions, right? And since we don't want to experience this kind of suffering, then we need to abandon the cause of that suffering, unwholesome actions. And then similarly, from our wholesome actions come the temporary happiness or relief from suffering. It is said that even the suffering on a hot day coming from experiencing a nice cool breeze, we feel nice for a moment. Even that is coming from our wholesome actions, from our virtue. And so since we want those effects, then we should never be satisfied with how much merit or wholesome actions we're doing and performing in our lives. Then third, right, subdue one's own mind. Well, that's because what determines our actions being wholesome or unwholesome is primarily the motivation with which we undertake the actions, right? So this is why in the advice for practicing in daily life, at the very beginning of our day, we try to, as much as we can, meditate on bodhicitta, and we do so by meditating on the whole sort of lamrim, starting with the precious human rebirth, impermanence, and death, and we sort of build up our motivation, thinking of the motivation of the initial capability practitioner, the middle capability practitioner, and then ending with this motivation of enlightenment, bodhicitta, right? So now, when we, since even the experience of some happiness from a cool breeze on a hot day is coming from a wholesome action, then of course, since the attainment of enlightenment is so wonderful, so unbelievable, then the cause of attaining that state is also going to be, similar, right? It has to be so magnificent, something not particularly easy to do, but something that we can do, right? And so our to have any kind of success, even success in our worldly activities, our business, and so forth, success in meeting people who will help us, all the way up to the attainment of enlightenment, is coming from our own karma, our own wholesome actions. So actually, when we now talk about progress along the stages of the path to enlightenment, progress in our path to enlightenment, then I think I mentioned a few times, but the advice that Lamsons Advice received from Manjushri to have a quick success in the practice, he got 3 pieces of advice. And the first was to make effort in our purification and accumulation of merit practice, right? And because of that, that is why very famously, Lama Tsongkhapa, when he was once giving teachings to thousands of monks in Tibet, in the middle of the teaching, he received this advice that he should go off and do a retreat, purification, and accumulation of merit. And well, he received this advice directly from Manjushri, and he was a bit kind of surprised, thinking, well, I'm in the middle of this teaching. Shouldn't I finish? Wouldn't that be more beneficial for sentient beings? And Manjushri basically said, well, I'm Manjushri. I know it's beneficial for sentient beings and not. So yeah, you should go now. And so he did. He left that teaching in the middle, disappointing many of the students, right? But he then went and famously did the 3.5 million prostrations to the 35 Buddhas, right? So normally we do in the Ngundro practice, we mentioned the other day, the preliminary practice is normally one does 100,000 prostrations to the 35 Buddhas, but Lama Tsongkhapa did 100,000 to each of the 35 Buddhas. He also did 1.8 million mandala offerings. Again, usually we do 100,000. So yeah, it is said that even now you can go to this place, Wulka in Tibet, and the place where he did prostrations, it's there's a little kind of groove that was worn into the ground. I remember, yeah, and I can say this, we have an all-American audience. So when I went to Washington, D.C. Many years ago with my family, I noticed on the steps of some of the government buildings, the grooves, there were like grooves in the kind of marble in the steps. And the tour guide at that time said, well, since the U.S. was a reasonably new country compared to a lot of these European states, the architects, the builders, they chose a kind of marble that would wear out quite quickly. So then it would give the kind of illusion that these buildings had been there a long time. So in any case, yeah, that just came to my mind. But where Lama Tsongkhapa had done his prostrations, you can see that the groove in the ground. So, yeah, that's the first step. The first piece of advice from Manjushri, right? To make effort in accumulating merit and purifying negativities. The second piece of advice was to make requests to one's guru, who one sees as inseparable from the deity, the Buddha. Okay, so we also talked about this last week, how when we visualize the merit field, visualize Shakyamuni Buddha, that's why we say Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, recalling that our guru is inseparable from Shakyamuni Buddha. And then when we do Tar practice, medicine Buddha practice, whatever it may be, we always keep that sort of recognition and awareness in mind. And then the last piece of advice from Manjushri is to then make effort in, well, here you actually see it a few different ways. So, yeah, I've seen it like then make effort in, study and meditation based on the authentic Indian commentaries. So, yeah, in particular, when Lama Tsongkhapa originally was asking Manjushri, he was asking because he felt unsatisfied with his understanding of emptiness. At one point, he had asked Manjushri, to whether his view of emptiness was according to the consequentialist school, the Prasangika, or according to the Sautrantika Majjhimika school, Svatrantika Majjhimika, sorry, the autonomist school, right? You guys know a little bit about the tenet systems. So within the Majjhimika, the middle way school, there's two subgroups. One sort of clarified by Chandrakirti, and one clarified by Bhaviveka. And Lama Tsongkhapa was asking his view, which system did it fall into? And Manjushri said neither. So, yeah. So Tsongkhapa was quite taken aback by that. And then he asked, oh, well, how do I then, arrive at the right view of emptiness? So then Manjushri gave the advice to, particularly rely on the commentaries by Chandrakirti. So now, I also have heard it when Rinpoche talks about it. He says then, the third step is to meditate on Lam Rim. So, yeah, I think there's no contradiction here. The point is, those first two, the accumulation of merit, purifying negativities, and requesting the guru for, realization, then those are seen as, the analogy is like if you're trying to grow crops in a field, then before you plant the seeds, you would remove the weeds, till the field, as they say, right? Remove the rocks and stones, the sort of obstacles for the harvest. And then you'd also fertilize the field well, so that whatever seeds you do plant in it will grow and grow quickly, big, and have a bountiful harvest. So whether one's goal is the whole Lam Rim realizations, right? Or in particular, if we're sort of focusing and trying to get the realization of emptiness, then those other steps of purifying the mind of the discordant factors and accumulating merit, those are going to be important with whatever we do. So that's this verse. And then so that's the importance of accumulation of merit and purification for success in one's spiritual life, right? And then, well, since it is important, then the thought is, oh, well, I'll just do a 10-day retreat, next month. Or once these deadlines are done at work and I get the project off the ground, then I can, do my purification and rejoicing practice. Well, it's not like that. So, especially in this day and age, right? Take off the screen share. We're very busy, and if we think, oh, I'll do my practice later, something else is going to come up, right? We think we're going to, oh, after my family goes home after the holidays, then I'll have more time. Well, then something else is going to happen in January, and you're going to be busy again. So even if you can't do 100,000 prostrations this month, well, you can do a little bit every day. And that is the advice, Rinpoche is giving. Of course, if you can do three rounds of the prostrations, that's great. If you can't do 3 rounds, then can you do 1 round, right? If you can't do 1 round, can you do, 6 prostrations a day, 3 in the morning, 3 in the evening, and kind of just recite the names of the 35 Buddhas, okay? So don't think that since you can't do like a nice 1-hour session, that then you shouldn't do anything, right? And especially this practice of rejoicing, which we mentioned, when we rejoice in the merits of others, we then receive a share of their merit. This we can even do anytime. We don't need special equipment, right? We don't need to even bring out our Dharma texts, right? We don't need to bring out or carry a mandala set with us. Even at a stoplight, right? When we're waiting for it to turn green, we can rejoice, right? Even while we're waiting for our coffee to brew, throughout the day, we can do this, and we should do this. So yeah, even, 10 seconds of rejoicing here, many times during the day can be very, very beneficial. Okay. So that was the two last bullet points of the module. And so now, let's see, where are we? Right. So now I want to just talk about these two purification practices, and then also touch on the 8 Mahayana precepts. Okay. Oh, it's probably worth going through this first, actually. Okay. So I think you all have this, right? The advice for daily practice. So here, we've basically gone through this, right? But first thing, we generate bodhicitta, okay? And then after we have bodhicitta, Rinpoche advises to do 35 Buddhas prostrations. And then do Guru Yoga, right? And then read a bit of Lamrim, even 5-10 minutes, right? Then in the evening, do a bit more reflection, reading. And then before bed, then we do the prostrations again and recite the Vajrasattva mantra, either the long one 21 times or the short one 28 times with the 4 opponent powers. So remember, we mentioned the benefits of the Vajrasattva practice is normally when we go through life, there's this feature of karma that it increases day by day, right? It doubles in its potency day by day. But if one recites the long Vajrasattva mantra 21 times or the short one 28 times, then this doubling does not occur. So yeah, very, very important. And it's also important to keep in mind, it's not just the recitation of Vajrasattva mantra, but it is doing it with the 4 opponent powers, right? Or here it's said 4 remedial powers, okay? And then we go to bed with a happy mind, right? So before we go to bed, we dedicate the merits. King of Prayers is best. Or in this daily meditation practice, there's some dedication prayers as well. And here, this is what Rinpoche was saying, and I just mentioned. So it's the continuity of the practice that's important. Even if you don't have time to do a lot, if it's short, but then you can do every day. You'll also remember from those factors that make karma heavy or light, then the actions that are repeatedly done make it very potent, right? Okay. And lastly, you may need to get up earlier to have more time to practice. Maybe you can check. So anyway, and here it is in bullet points. So we can try like this, right? Okay. So let's go through these practices. So I think you all have, and if you don't, we'll send it to you. But this confession of a Bodhisattva's downfalls to the 35 Buddhas, this should be a review because I did this in the module on karma, right? So let's just do it, okay? We'll do it with a bit of commentary into this first, okay? So I'll read through it, but also while I'm reading, try to have these thoughts, right, as well. So thinking that the purpose of my life is to free the numberless sentient beings, who are the source of all my past, present, and future happiness, temporary as well as ultimate, including all the realization of the path, liberation from samsara, enlightenment, from the oceans of samsaric suffering, including the causes, delusion, and karma. In order to do this, I must achieve full enlightenment. Therefore, I need to actualize the path. Therefore, I need to purify my negative karma and thereon falls. Okay. So here is generally, this is the bodhicitta motivation, right? You need to attain enlightenment so you can be most benefit to numberless sentient beings. Okay. So that's the kind of wishing bodhicitta. And therefore, we need to actualize the path. And so we're going to, engage in these practices, right? So then bodhicitta, but then now we're doing this purification practice. So we're going to do the 4 opponent powers. And so in the opponent power of regret, we need to recall the shortcomings of our negative karma, right? So here we're recalling that, it's the effect of our negative karma that we would be reborn in the lower realms, okay? So now we reflect, if I were now born in hell, it would be so unbearable. Even when a tiny fire spark on my body is hundreds of thousands of times hotter than the whole fire energy in this world, it is so unbearable that experiencing it for even an instant is like suffering for many eons. So yeah, the suffering in the lower realms, particularly the hell realm, is so unbearable. Not only that, but we have achieved or created the numberless causes to be reborn in the hell realms by creating the 10 non-virtuous actions countless times in this and beginningless past lives. I've created numberless causes to be born in the hell realms by breaking the pratimoksha vow, by breaking the bodhisattva vow, and by breaking the tantra vow countless times in this and beginningless past lives. I've created numberless causes to be born in the hells by creating the heaviest negative karma in relation to holy virtuous friends by harming their holy bodies, disobeying their advice, disturbing their holy minds, having non-devotional thoughts, giving rise to heresy and anger, which produce the greatest obstacles to achieving realizations and create the greatest suffering. So it's not just that in general, negative karma creates suffering effects, but we ourselves have created these negative karmas, not just one, but many, many times in this and countless lifetimes since beginningless samsara. Okay. And then further reflecting on the drawbacks of negative karma, we have these 4 features of karma. So every single one of these negative actions has 4 suffering results. The ripened aspect result, rebirth in lower realms, the possessor result, the types of environments I experience when again born as human, and the result similar to the cause as an experience, right? So, for example, when we're born a human, if we have killed in previous lives, then we'll be, we'll experience a short life or, be killed ourselves. And then the worst one, the result similar to the cause as an action, means if we've killed in previous life, then we'll have a sort of affinity. We will engage in killing again in this life. And that means again and again, I'm forced to create the same negative actions in the future. And so again and again, I'll have to experience the 4 suffering results. In this way, samsara has no end. Okay. So then, not only that, but karma increases. So even a small negative action can have huge suffering results. And karma is definite to be experienced. So every negative action I've created will definitely bring its results, no matter how long it takes until it is purified. So for one negative karma, I have to experience the result over and over again, for so many hundreds of lifetimes. Understanding this, how can I stand to live my life without purifying myself and getting rid of all these negative karmas, just as I would try to get rid of a deadly poison in my body? Okay. So those are the 4 features of karma, right? Then to add a bit of urgency to our practice, we should remember impermanence and death. So not only do all these karmas have those drawbacks, but I'm going to die, and death can come even today at any moment. Therefore, I must purify all my negative actions right this second. In order to do that, I'm going to do these prostrations with confession of a bodhisattva's downfalls to the 35 Buddhas. And I'm going to do this so that I can actualize the path and achieve full enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay. All right. So that's most important to generate the 4 potent powers and generate a good bodhicitta motivation at the beginning of the practice. And then we have this visualization. So I think you noticed that right now I'm not in the usual background. I think I mentioned we have the construction work going on the roof. So not only that, but there's a cyclone. So it's called a hurricane in your hemisphere, but in this hemisphere, this part of the world, they're called cyclones. So it didn't really hit this part; it hit the neighboring state, but the kind of residual clouds then came over, and it's been raining. And since we're doing roof work, then we tore off part of the roof, and so many of the rooms are leaking. So the place where I normally give teachings, where we have our prostration board set up, is now have quite a few buckets to capture the water that's dripping. So that's why I'm in this room. So I'm unable to do the prostrations, full-length prostrations, even the kind of half prostrations, but that's okay. I said, I'm going to come to this room and show how we can do, even if you're, doing this on the bus or you're on a flight and you can't do the full-length prostrations, you can still do this practice. Okay. You can recite the names. I think, Mary, not Mary Ellen, but Mary, anyway, I'm not sure she wants her last name mentioned, but Mary, who's not here today, but she had mentioned due to some health concern, or many people have problems with knees or whatever, then they can't do the full-length prostration. That's okay. You can then just do the prostration mudra and visualize, and then still do the recitation, because it is the recitation of the Buddha's names that actually bring the purification. The prostration, we mentioned every atom we cover to the kind of Vajra base of the earth, right? Means more atoms we cover, right? For every atom, we accumulate the merit to be reborn as a wheel-turning king for that many eons. So the prostration part, we're accumulating merit. The recitation of the names, we're purifying our negative karma. So it's a very good practice. We are doing both purification and accumulation of merit. So, yeah. If we can't physically prostrate, laying out on the ground, we can just prostrate like this, and we can still recite. So then there's this visualization, okay? And so, yeah, there's all this detail, okay? But basically, at the beginning, we see how it should be, right? So if you're a more visual person, then you don't need all those words. Just kind of visualize like this. There's Shakyamuni Buddha, Avalokiteshvara at his heart. Yeah, from the heart comes out these light rays, at the tips of which are all these rest of the Buddhas. They're in these rows, right? All with the same appearance in each row, except for this one, King Lord of the Nagas, who has a white face, right? And then at the bottom, the medicine Buddhas. So normally we talk about the 7 medicine Buddhas, 7th one being medicine Buddha. This is Shakyamuni Buddha again. When you talk about 8 medicine Buddhas, Shakyamuni Buddha is included because he is the one who taught the medicine Buddha practice. Okay? So we visualize, and then keeping in mind the Guru Yoga practice, thinking that, even these Buddhas, right, is the embodiment of all the Buddhas Dharma and Sangha, and all the statutes of the scriptures of the 3 times in 10 directions, 3 times past, present, future, 10 directions, the 4 cardinal directions, the 4 intermediate directions, above and below, right? And then their essence is the Guru, and then have complete faith that each one has the power to purify all our negative karmas and obscurations collected from beginningless rebirths. Then we imagine we emanate numberless bodies, and as we prostrate, all these bodies prostrate along with you in all directions, covering every atom of the earth. So here, just as we said, when we make offerings, whether it's the actual offering or visualized offering, we get the same benefit. So similarly, we do this, imagining numberless bodies and covering every atom of the earth, and in that way, we get the much more benefit as well. Okay, then there are these multiplying mantras. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, I do it in a slightly different order in different commentaries from Rinpoche. I think he, at one time, this was the first one done, right? Om Namo Manjushri, Namo Shushri, Namo Uttama Shri Soha. And then, I think there's one more. Yeah, Rinchen Gelsen, right? Rinchen Gelsen. That's not here. Okay. So, Om Namo Manjushri, Namo Shushri, Namo Uttama Shri Soha. And then, Deshin Sheba, Rinchen Gelsen La Chaselo. Okay. And then, Om Namo Bhagavate, Ranaketu Radzaya, Tadagadaya Arate Samay Sambudaya Tayata Om, Rane Rane Maharane Rana Vizaya Soha. Okay, do those. And then these two we can do together. And this is the one I mentioned. We recite as a pair. And this one you can also do while doing circumambulation. I think I mentioned in the other module that when I was staying at Bodh Gaya once, Rinpoche was there, and every night, and this was after Rinpoche manifested the appearance of having a stroke, and so he walking is still a little bit taking the aspect of walking being difficult for him. Nonetheless, every night he would do circumambulation at Root Institute, and there's the Maitreya statue and some Kadampa stupas. And Rinpoche would do this 108 times, reciting the mantra for a whole mala, and then also reciting the Vajrasattva practice 21 times. Sometimes he would recite the praise to dependent origination and the King of Prayers, okay, as a dedication. So here, Lama, Tamba Chonden de Deshin Shabaja, Chombayanda, Bazobe, Sangepel, Gavashaka Tubala Chasalo, and then just go right into Om Nama Dasha Dekati Kala Ratna Traya Nama Pradaksha Subradaksha Sarva Papam Vishadani Soha. So at one point I asked Dharma brother of mine who had studied Sanskrit the meaning of this mantra, and I kind of forgot. But I think Dasha Dik is 10 directions, Tri Kala is 3 times, Sarva is all, Ratna is jewel, Trayaya is 3. Okay. So Sarva Papam Vishadani is, so Sarva again is all, Papam is negativities or obscurations, Vishadani is purify, right? So I think the essence, I kind of forget, Nama Pradaksha, Suradaksha. So I think it is, right? So all of the 3 times 10 direction Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, right? Purify all of the negative karmas and obscurations. Something like that. Okay. So then, O Namo, right? Namo is I prostrate. So maybe it is I prostrate to all the three times in 10 directions Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Please purify all of my. And here you see, now this is my reasoning mind, right? Here we have these 5 important benefits of this, right? So each prostration or circumambulation you do becomes the same as having prostrate or circumambulated to all the 3 rare sublime ones and all the stupid stupid scriptures of the 10 directions in 3 times. Okay, so we were saying I prostrate to all 3 times 10 direction, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay, now all our negative karma collected from beginning of this time gets purified. So I think this is Sarva Papam Vishuddhani Soha. Then quickly achieve full enlightenment. You'll not be harmed by enemies and interferers, and you'll be free from diseases and spirit harms. So I think, right, the Nama Pradaksha Supradaksha could also be, maybe something about freeing me from enemies, interferers, disease, and spirit harms. Yeah, that would make sense. Okay. Or maybe it's that since we are purifying all of our negative karma and being harmed by enemies and interferers and disease and spirit harm is what causes all those harms, then that's why the benefits come. Okay. Either way is a very important mantra. Then there's the actual praise, prayer. This just is in the Tibetan text. Namo Janji Sembe Tung Wa Shakpa. So homage to the confession of the Bodhisattva's downfalls. Then here the opponent power of taking refuge. I, and then you say your name. So I, Tenzin Namjang, throughout all times. Take refuge in the Guru, take refuge in the Buddha, take refuge in the Dharma, take refuge in the Sangha. So, practically speaking, when anyone does the practice, you'll stand up and do the motivation visualization, and then these preliminary name mantras. Okay, here it says in the commentary, they can be recited very quickly. One recitation does not need to correspond with one prostration. Okay, so in the past, when this was done, you would do, Om Namo Manju Shri Nama Shri Shri Nama Uttama Shri Soha, one prostration. Om Namo Manju Shri Nama Shri Shri Nama Uttama Shri Soha, one prostration. Right? That means one mantra corresponding with one prostration. Here, the updated advice is that it don't need to correspond with one prostration. So what I do, right, when a full prostration, I just recite the mantra 3 times, and I can recite quite quickly, so I can do 3 recitations of the mantra in the time it takes me to do 1 full-length prostration. Okay, and then I do the other mantra. I think it's in the regular prayer book, right? Otherwise, we'll send it to you. Deshin Sheba Rinshin, Rinshin Gelsen La Chasalo. Or maybe it even has Chonden de Deshin Sheba Jacho Bayanda Bazobe Sange, Rinshin Gelsen La Chasalo. Okay, no problem. The full one is to the Bhagavan Tathagata Arhat, fully completed Buddha, Rinshin Gelsen. So Rinshin is jewel, Gelsen is like a victory banner, right? So victorious jewel, or I don't know how they translate it, right? And then this one. Onamo Bhagavate Rana Kidurazaya Tathagata Samazam Buddhaya Tatam Rane Rane Maharane Rana Vize. So I'll do one prostration for each of these 3. and I can recite quite quickly. So I can do 3 recitations of each of the mantras. And then I'll do these 2 together, right? 4 or 5 times. And then getting into the actual confession of downfalls. Okay. And for this, I'll recite this refuge formula while doing a prostration. Okay. So then here we repeat each Buddha's name aloud, right? Because the benefits of the reciting the names is what's going to bring the purification. And we do that as many times as we can, right? So here we could do, right, 1 prostration to each of the Buddhas. Okay. So the Shakyamuni, right, it's long. It has a full, Lama Tabacham Nation Bajajabayana Bazabazange, Peagabashakatubala Chasalo, right? Whereas some of these other ones, it's Dijishabavinchin Urtuela Chasalo, right? So fewer words. So normally in the time it takes to do 1 full-length prostration, I can recite this twice. But some of them, King Lord Nagas, for example, I can recite, 7 or 8 times. Okay. So basically as many times as you can recite while you're doing the prostrations. Okay. And then it's also very good to memorize. I think I gave that advice in the karma module. So of course, hearing that advice, you've all by now memorized the names, right? Yeah. So here then, right, even if you do the recitation by listening to a recording, you can still recite the name yourself as much as you can. So I did a recording, right? And I think most of you have that. Otherwise, there's people with, nicer voices than me who also did the recording. So here, again, Rinpoche advice is a daily practice. If you can do 3 sets of prostration, otherwise just 1 or 2. And then at the end, recite the names of the 7 medicine Buddhas while prostrating 1 time to each one. Okay? So now, let's recite together. Okay? So now, you're in the train, you're on an overnight flight, you can't do the full-length prostrations, or let's say that it'll be inauspicious to say you have some kind of knee problem, right? So let's say let's make it even better. You are flying to India. Okay. You're flying to India so you can go to Bodh Gaya to see the Dalai Lama give teachings. Okay. Very auspicious. So then you're on the nonstop flight from SFO to Delhi. Okay. I've taken that flight. It's very nice, actually. So I like long flights, right? Anyway, so you're on that. You have 17 hours. What are you going to do, right? You're gonna watch the movies? Huh? No. You have time then for a nice, nice practice session. Several. Okay? So let's recite. To the Guru, Teacher, Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, thoroughly destroying the Vajra essence, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, radiant jewel, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, King, Lord, Nagas, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, army of heroes, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, delighted hero, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, jewel fire, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, jewel moonlight, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, meaningful to see, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, jewel moon, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, sins one, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, bestowed courage, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, pure one, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, bestowed purity, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, water God, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, deity, the water God, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, glorious goodness, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, glorious sandalwood, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, infinite splendor, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, glorious light, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, starless glory, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, sun of non-craving, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, glorious flower, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, pure light rays clean knowing by play, I prostrate. To the Tathagata, Lotus eye rays clearly known by play. I prostrate to Tathagata glorious wealth. I prostrate to Tathagata glorious mindfulness. I prostrate to Tathagata glorious name, widely renowned. I prostrate to Tathagata king holding victory banner, foremost power. I prostrate to Tathagata glorious one, totally subduing. I prostrate to Tathagata early victorious in battle. I prostrate to Tathagata glorious transcendence through subduing. I prostrate to Tathagata glorious manifestations, illuminating all. I prostrate Tathagata also doing jewel lotus. I prostrate to Tathagata Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, King Lord of the mountains, firmly seated on jewel lotus. I prostrate. So here it says, so the benefit of this last Buddha is that it purifies the negative karma created in relation to your guru. So here it says you can recite the name of the last Buddha 3 times with each set of prostrations, right? Then it says you can also repeat the name many times like a mantra when you're not doing prostrations. So, don't just do one, do many times. Then prostrations, 7 medicine Buddhas. To the Bhagavan, Tathagata, perfectly complete Buddha. Renowned glorious King of excellence, signs are prostrate Tathagata, to Bhagavan, Tathagata, perfectly complete Buddha. King Lotus sound, brilliant radiance of skill, dome of jewels, moon lotus, I prostrate to Bhagavan, Tathagata, perfectly complete Buddha, sand, sex, and gold, illuminating jewel, who accomplishes all conduct, I prostrate to the Bhagavan, Tathagata, perfectly complete Buddha, glorious supreme one, free from sorrow, I prostrate to the Bhagavan, Tathagata, perfectly complete Buddha, melodious ocean of proclaimed Dharma, I prostrate to the Bhagavan, Tathagata, perfectly complete Buddha, clear knowing by play of supreme wisdom of ocean of Dharma, I prostrate to the Bhagavan, Tathagata, perfectly complete Buddha, medicine guru, king of Vaidurya light, I prostrate. Okay. So here, if you have the full prayer, including this memorized, you can continue to do prostrations while reciting this confession. Otherwise, some people, they'll kind of just kneel in a posture of regret and remorse. So either way. All you, 35 Buddhas, 7 medicine Buddhas, and others, as many Tathagata are perfectly complete Buddha Bhagavans, as are abiding, living, and residing in all world systems of 10 directions, all you Buddha Bhagavans, please pay attention to me. In this life and all the states of rebirth in which I have circled in samsara from beginningless lives, whatever negative actions I have created, may the less creator rejoice in the creation of whatever possessions of the holy objects of offering. So in the past that has been translated as stupa, but it can be anything, right? Statues, temples, right? Possession of the Sangha, or possession of Sangha of the 10 directions I have appropriated, may those appropriated rejoice in the appropriation of whichever among the 5 heavy negative karmas without break I have done, caused to be done, and rejoice in the doing of. Whichever the 10 non-virtuous paths of actions I have engaged in, cause others to engage in, and rejoice in the engaging of. So here, as we enumerate these negative karmas, we generate the 4 opponent powers, particularly regret, right? And then whatever I have done, okay? So it's good to be very specific. Think about these negative karmas, yeah? So then, that's just enumerating the negative karmas. And then now we think about the drawbacks. So being obscured by these karmas that caused me to be reborn as a sentient being in the hell realm, in the animal realm, or the preth realm, in an irreligious country, as a barbarian, or as a long life god with imperfect faculties, holding wrong views, or not being pleased with Buddha's descent. So as you know, those are the 8. Okay, in a perfect human rebirth, those are the 8 freedoms. To be free from being born in the hell realm, free from being born in animal realm, right? So we now have the perfect human rebirth, so we have freedom from those 8 states. But if we engage in negative karma, we won't have the freedom that we have now. So we will be reborn in one of those conditions, right? So now, think about the drawbacks. In the presence of the Buddha Bhagavans, who are transcendental wisdom, who are eyes, who are witnesses, who are valid, and receive with undiminished consciousness. I admit and confess all these negative actions. I do not conceal them nor hide them, and from now on in the future, I'll abstain and refrain from committing them again. So that is the opponent power of restraint, right? We commit ourselves not to do such negative actions in the future. Now, we're dedicating, right? We're going to dedicate all the virtue that we've accumulated since the beginning of this time. And while we do that, while we enumerate our virtues, then we should rejoice, right? So here, all Buddha Bhagavans, please pay attention to me in this life and all the states of rebirth in which I have circled in samsara from beginningless lives. Whatever roots of virtue I have created by generosity, even as little as giving just one mouthful of food to a being born in the animal realm. So as we think about the virtue that we created in these 6 perfections, right? First generosity, then guarding morality, and so forth. Then we should, rejoice in our merits. We rejoice in the merits of others. So whatever roots of virtue I've created by guarding morality, whatever roots of virtue I've created by following pure conduct, that's practice of patience, right? So following pure conduct, why is it called practice of patience? Or why is practice of patience the practice of following pure conduct? Well, when we're harmed, not to harm back, right? That means, that's following pure conduct. Whatever roots of virtue I've created by fully ripening sentient beings. So, to fully ripen sentient beings, to give teachings. Particularly, it takes, effort not to, get discouraged, even if you have to make the same explanation over and over again, right? Whatever roots of virtue I've created by generating bodhicitta. So many of you have studied the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, right? So you'll see in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara this chapter on meditation or concentration. That's where the instructions on equalizing and exchanging self for others appears. So in that chapter, it first talks about, the drawbacks of, worldly life and the hustle and bustle of living in cities, the benefits of being in an isolated place, benefits of generating shine, or the calm abiding mind, and then it gets into the actual instructions for generating bodhicitta. So whatever roots of virtue I've created by my unsurpassed transcendental wisdom. Okay. That's the perfection of wisdom. So then all these assembled and gathered, combined together, I fully dedicate to the unsurpassed, unexcelled, that higher than the high, that superior to the superior. Thus, I completely dedicate to the highest, perfectly complete enlightenment. Okay. So just as the past Buddha Bhagavans have fully dedicated, just as the future Buddha Bhagavans will fully dedicate, and just as the presently embodying Buddha Bhagavans are fully dedicated, like that too, I dedicate fully. So a similar sentiment is found in those verses we normally recite. They're from the King of Prayers, just like the Manjushri and Samadhavajra, fully dedicated, like that I too dedicate fully, right? And with the dedication, which is praised the best by all the Buddhas of the 3 times, I too fully dedicate all my virtues for the attainment of the Samadhavajra's practice. Okay. So here, how did the past Buddha Bhagavans dedicate? Well, yes, they dedicated for full enlightenment, but also they dedicated with the awareness that the one doing the dedication, the merit that is being dedicated, and the result of that merit is empty of inherent existence. Okay. So like the Buddhas of the past have dedicated, we also dedicate fully. And here again, it's a kind of review of actually this practice is the 7 limb practice, right? The offerings is kind of implicit, but we do. And then prostration, confession, So we confess all negative actions individually, rejoice in all merits. So urge and request the Buddhas. So I've a little bit forget which is which, but one is urging the Buddhas to not pass into parinirvana, and then requesting them to teach. Okay. And then dedicating, may I achieve the supreme, holy, and peerless transcendental wisdom to the conquerors, the best of humans, those who are living in the present time, who have lived in the past, and who will likewise come, all those whose qualities are as vast as the infinite ocean, with hands full that approach for refuge. Okay. Then we have the general dedication. Here again, as we enumerate these negative actions, we can do it very slowly, pausing to generate very strong regret. And in particular, think that we have done these actions not just once, but numberless time from beginningless rebirth. And then to make the purification even more powerful, we think about the emptiness of the negative karma. And so there's some ways to do that. Merely labeled by the mind. So, as you know, merely, what does merely mean? Merely labeled by the mind, merely labeled by the mind means there's nothing whatsoever existing from the object's own side. It's just merely labeled by the mind. Wholly empty from its own side, and hallucination. So, strictly speaking, it's not a hallucination. It's just like a hallucination, right? Hallucination means, if we hallucinate a pink elephant floating in the sky and the space in front of us, there's actually no pink elephant, but it appears that there is one, okay? So for us ordinary beings, actually for us non-Buddhas, then everything that appears to our sense consciousness, it appears as if there's a truly existent table, chair, you, me. But these truly existent tables and chairs don't exist whatsoever. So in that sense, it's like a hallucination, because what appears means the truly existent table, that one doesn't exist at all. Okay. Now, the table exists as being, merely labeled by the mind, but hey, does a merely labeled table appear to us? The table appears to us. Does a merely labeled table appear to us? No? Yeah. Okay, we can think about that. The table appears, and the table is merely labeled. So, anyway. Okay, whatever the case, for sure, okay, so does a truly existent table appear to us? If it does, right? If it does, a truly existent table doesn't exist, right? So one way of saying the table appears as truly existent, right? The table appears. The table doesn't appear as merely labeled, right? The table appears as truly existent. But maybe we can say a merely labeled table appears to us, because if it is a table, it's merely labeled, right? But that merely labeled table doesn't appear as merely labeled. It appears as truly existent. Anyway, these are distinctions we make on the debate courtyard, but it's a little bit helpful to think, right? The one, for those of you who have studied Lorik, right, mind and awareness, there's this example of the white snow mountain appearing as blue, right? So when, let's just say you put on blue sunglasses and you look at the snow mountain, it appears blue, right? So does a blue snow mountain appear? No, a blue snow mountain doesn't exist. The white snow mountain appears as a blue snow mountain, okay? So using that similar kind of reasoning, that's why I say the table appears. The table appears as truly existent. Truly existent table doesn't exist, doesn't appear. Table is merely labeled. Table doesn't appear as merely labeled, but a merely labeled table appears. If we are, the merely labeled table appears to us, we don't have to realize that it is merely labeled. Mary Ellen, you're raising your hand.
I didn't think that you could perceive the merely labeled part without having a realization of emptiness. I mean, like, so you.
That's right.
Okay.
So that it appears to us doesn't mean we realize, right? You've studied Lorik. Those of you who have, you'll know that, there's the appearing object and there's the engaged object, right? So just that it appears doesn't mean we have to realize it. It is said that actually in the Lorik system, the Satyantika system, then when the pot appears, when the table appears, the table's impermanence also appears. But we don't realize the impermanence, right? So just because it appears doesn't mean it's realized. Sorry. No, I'm not going to apologize. No, I won't apologize for giving a little, sprinkling in some emptiness thoughts, right? I'm not apologizing for that, but yeah, if I created more confusion, nah, I didn't. Okay, so here's the general confession. Woe is me, Great Guru Vajradhara. So that's the tantric. So when Guru Shakyamuni Buddha gave the tantric teachings, he would appear in this aspect of Vajradhara. All of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who abide in 10 directions and all the Venerable Sangha, please pay attention to me. I who am the intents and Namjang, circling the cycle of existence from beginningless time until the present, overpowered by delusions such as attachment, hatred, and ignorance, by means of my body, speech, and mind, have committed 10 non-virtuous actions. So here, we would pause, generate regret. Committed the 5 heavy negative karmas without break. You guys know that. Killing your father and mother in Arhat, causing a schism in the Sangha, and drawing with a mind of malicious intent, causing the Buddha to bleed. And committed the 5 nearing heavy negative karmas without break. So let's see if I remember. There's different presentations of this, but one is, having committing incest with a woman who is an arhat, right? Sometimes you see it committing incest with a fully ordained nun. And then killing a bodhisattva, killing another Arya being who is not an arhat, right? And then sometimes, you'll see it, destroying a stupa, right? Sometimes you'll see stealing from the Sangha. Yeah. So actually in the Mahayana way of enumerating from a Sangha's text, actually these nearing heavy negative karmas are not just merely 5, right? There can be many, many. In any case, these negative karmas without break, what that means is if one has done that and not purified, then one will be reborn in the hell realms in their very next life, without a possibility of, say, first being born as an animal and then later be born in hells. It's kind of like Monopoly. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200, right? So it's immediately you go to jail in Monopoly, right? Then here, right after one passes away from this life, you're born in the hell realms. I've transgressed the vows of individual liberation, transgressed the vows of bodhisattvas, and transgressed the Samaya of secret mantra. Those are 3 types of vows, right? I've been disrespectful to my parents, to my Vajra masters and my abbot, and disrespectful to my spiritual friends living in ordination. So here we mentioned, that these, the field of our parents, our teachers, our abbots, and, our other spiritual friends, those are kind of heavy field of merit. So the negative actions we've done in relation to them has a greater effect. So we also single those out as things to regret. And then have committed actions harmful to the 3 sublime ones, abandon the holy dharma, criticize the Arya Sangha, harm sinning beings, and so on. So abandoning the holy dharma, we mentioned in the context of the benefits of Lam Rim, how it helps us avoid the great fault. That great fault is, by saying, oh, this teaching, say, for example, the teaching on the middle scope designed to, lead one to individual liberation, saying that, oh, no, that's just for the lesser practitioners who only want liberation. I don't need to practice that, right? So in even making such a statement, one creates the negative karma of abandoning the holy dharma. Then also, as we mentioned, when we respect the dharma texts and not to put like our mala or something on top of it, it is also said that by disrespecting dharma texts in such a way, one creates the negative karma of abandoning the holy dharma. Okay, criticizing the Arya Sangha, harming sentient beings, and so on. These and many other non-virtuous negative actions I have done, caused others to do, rejoice in others doing, and so forth. In the presence of the great Guru Vajradhara, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who abide in 10 directions, and all the Venerable Sangha, I admit this entire collection of faults and transgressions that are obstacles of my own higher rebirth and liberation, and causes of psychic existence and lower realms. So here again, sort of recalling the drawbacks of our negative karma to further generate regret. I do not conceal them and accept them as negative. I promise to refrain from doing these actions again in the future. By confessing and acknowledging them, I will attain and abide in happiness, while by not confessing and acknowledging them, true happiness will not come. So here, promising to refrain is the restraint, opponent power of restraint. Then this is visualization. So think that through the force of reciting these names, and having done the prostrations, then nectar and light descend from their holy bodies. It enters you. All the negative karma, obscurations, and imprints collected on your mental continuum from beginningless rebirths are completely purified, and think that generate strong faith that your mind has become completely pure. Then reflecting on emptiness. In emptiness, there's no I, the creator of negative karma. No action of creating negative karma, no negative karma created. You can think like that. And then there is this this mantra of pure morality. Many of you will know it from the ceremony for taking the 8 Mahayana precepts. Here, the advice is to recite this 7 or 21 times. Then it says, His Holiness Trijang Rinpoche, one of Rinpoche's, Lama Zopa Rinpoche's gurus, then says this mantra has 3 benefits. Negative karma of breaking vows are purified. It enables you to keep your vows purely, and you receive the blessings of Buddha and Bodhisattvas. So, Om Amogashila Sambara Bara Bara Mahashuddhasava Pemo Bibukita. Okay, that's how it's normally pronounced in Tibetan. Buja Dara Dara Samanta Avalokite Humpe Soha. Okay. And then this one stanza, You know where it's from? It's from the Maitreya dedication. Maitreya dedication. By abiding in flawless morality of Dharma rules, completely pure morality free from conceit, may I complete the perfection of morality. Okay. So that is the Confession Buddha practice. Oops. So now we also have the Vajrasattva practice. Okay. So in the evening, Rinpoche was advising we do both. In the morning, we do the confession to 35 Buddhas with prostration. And it's actually very nice to do. You get your blood flowing right in the morning, right? In the evening. Yeah. You can just recite it. You can do the prostrations again, up to you. So then we do the Vajrasattva meditation, purification with 4 opponent powers. Here, the visualization. 1 second. On your right side is your father, on your left side, your mother. Enemies and sentient beings who disturb you are seated in front. Your friends and those to whom you're attached are seated behind you. And then all the other sentient beings in human form surround you. Visualize the object of refuge in the space in front of you with either the elaborate visualization of the one into many, as in Joitra, or the simple visualization of many into one. That is, all the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are in one aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha. So we went over those different ways of visualizing before. One into many is, Shakyamuni Buddha as the central figure, and then the light rays radiating out. Actually, similar to the what we did with the 35 Buddha visualization, right? One into many, right? Or just the one central figure, Shakyamuni Buddha, who we then recall as encompassing all the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So then we recite this verse, and then we think we're taking refuge in generating bodhicitta together with all sentient beings. Okay. So, it's very good, right, when we do the two of these together, because at the beginning of the confession to 35 Buddhas, there is a little bit more elaborate motivation. Okay. If you're just jumping in right away to the Vajrasattva, and you're not doing the confession Buddha's practice, you could do a similar type of motivation. Again, thinking that the purpose of your life is to benefit all sentient beings, therefore you need to purify, so you're going to attain enlightenment and clear away the obstacles that prevent you from achieving enlightenment. You can recall the negative aspects of negative karma, right? So it's going to come up here. But anyway, have a motivation at the beginning, and then recite this refuge formula. I take refuge in time, enlightened Buddha, Dharma, Supreme Assembly, by my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge in time, enlightened the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly, by my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge in time, enlightened the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly, by my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. So here, the power of regret. We had the power of reliance, now the power of regret. So here again, thinking in this way, almost every action I do 24 hours a day is motivated by worldly concern attached to the happiness of this life. It's been like that from beginningless samsaric rebirths, and it is like this from birth to death in this life. Nearly every action I have created has been non-virtuous, the cause of suffering. Not only that, but I have also continuously been breaking my pratimoksha, bodhisattva, and tantra vows. Worst of all, I have created the heaviest of negative karmas in relation to my virtuous friends by harming their holy bodies, disobeying their advice, disturbing their holy minds, having non-devotional thoughts, and giving rise to heresy and anger. Having these negative imprints on my mental continuum is unbearable. It is as if I have swallowed a lethal poison. Therefore, I must purify all these negative karmas immediately with the antidote of the four opponent powers. So, here, there's this paragraph, which is nice. It's very good. But if there are particular actions you did today or recently that you want to single out, so let's say, whatever, you took the Mahayana precepts. So you had the vow not to sing, but you had a song in your head and you just burst into song with a lapse of mindfulness, right? You can kind of single that out. Or, whatever you've done. Let's say you killed an ant or something, you broke your pratimoksha vow not to kill. So you can single out those ones you remember from today and then use those to reflect more broadly, right? So don't just think, oh, I killed an ant today, therefore I broke my pratimoksha vow, but then thinking, yes, you killed the ant today, but more generally, you've been breaking your pratimoksha, bodhisattva, and tantra vows from beginningless time. Okay? Then, remembering impermanence and death, you'll then have some more urgency to your practice. So here's one way to do that. Many people my age or younger have died. It is a miracle that I'm still alive and have this incredible opportunity to purify many negative karmas. Death is certain, but the time of death is totally uncertain. If I were to die right now, I'd definitely be reborn in lower realms. Because I could not practice Dharma there, I would remain in lower realms for countless eons. So that's important. When we think about the drawbacks of negative karma, it's not just that when we're in the lower realms, we suffer, right? Just not that. But we can't practice Dharma. That's the main thing, right? Therefore, I remain in the lower realms for countless eons. Therefore, how unbelievably fortunate I am to be able to purify many negative karmas right now without even a second's delay by practicing the Vajrasattva meditation. Then we sort of top up our bodhicitta, right? But I'm not practicing this Vajrasattva purification for myself alone. The purpose of my life is to free all hell beings, hungry ghost animals, human beings, asuras, suras, and intimate state beings from all their suffering and its causes, and to lead them to the peerless happiness of enlightenment. In order to do this, I must first reach enlightenment myself. Therefore, I must purify all my negative karmas immediately by practicing this Vajrasattva meditation. Then we visualize Vajrasattva above the crown, facing the same direction as us. If we haven't had Soga Tantra recitation, then it's, Vajrasattva, father and mother, means the two of them. Otherwise, in the solitary aspect of Vajrasattva, okay, still facing in front without a wisdom mother. Then right hand holding a Vajra at the heart, left hand at the hip, holding a bell. So it says resting on his thigh. So it's more like the hip, right? You see in the Tanka. So above the crown of my head, this is for those with the initiation, are seated upon lotus and moon, are Vajrasattva father and mother. Their holy bodies are white with one face, two arms. Vajrasattva holds a Vajra and bell, the wisdom mother, a knife, curved knife and skull cup. They embrace each other. Vajrasattva is adorned with 6 mudras. the wisdom mother with 5. So this is describing the various ornaments. Yeah. The appearance of Vajrasattva. He sits in the Vajra posture, she in the lotus posture. Then remember combining it with Guru devotion. So thinking that Vajrasattva is my Guru, the holy mind of all the Buddhas, the Dharmakaya. Out of unbearable compassion encompassing me and all the sentient beings, my Guru appears in this form to purify me and all sentient beings. Yeah, that's what it means for the mind to be transformed into Guru devotion. Then finally, we have the power of the remedy, the actual Vajrasattva recitation. So here we visualize in the center of the moon disk of Vajrasattva's heart is a hum, seed syllable, encircled by a garland of the 100-syllable mantra. That's what this mantra is, 100 syllables. And then as we recite, then the stream of white nectar flows from the hum and the mantra garland, entering the crown of my head and filling my entire body. And we can think that as this happens, then our negative karma, obscurations, sickness, and spirit harms are completely purified. And we can think that they leave our body in the aspect of black sludge through our lower doors. Okay. So how's our time? Okay. So we have 33 minutes. Yeah, we can recite. I'll recite this mantra 21 times. We can do together. You might not be able to do 21 times in the amount that I do, in the time it takes me. But then we can switch over to the short mantra. Okay. Yeah, we have time for that. Okay. So normally, when I've done this before in a group, before the first recitation, there's this Ahum Pe, and then start with Om Vajrasattva. Anyway, that's how I had learned, so we'll do that. Ahum Pe, Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manu Palaya Vajrasattva Teno Pa Dira Dido Me Bava, Sudakayo Me Bava, Supakayo Me Bava, Anurata Me Bava, Savasiri Me Prayacha, Savakama Chuja Me Chitim Shim Kuruvam Ha Ho Bhagavan, Savatatagata Vajramame Munsa, Vajrabhava Ma Samaya Sava Ahum Pe. So I'll do more silent recitation. So just recite as you can. Om Vajrasattva Samaya. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manu Palaya Vajrasattva Tena Pa Dira Me Bava, Sudakayo Me Bava, Supakayo Me Bava, Ananda Me Bava, Savasirame Baja Savakava Chuchame Chim Chim Kuro Ha O Bhagavan Savada Lagada Bajama Muja Bajaba Masamaya Sava Om Pe Om Vaja Safa Hum 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 Om Vaja Safa Hum. So, although it says 28, I did a mala, right? So, some people, they want to game the system, right? They think, oh, 21 of the long mantras or 28 of the short, that prevents the karma from doubling. Oh, 20 of the short? Oh, yeah, that's what I'll do. So if you're going to do the short mantra, you can at least, maybe do a mala worth, not just stop at 28, right? It's 28 to prevent the doubling, but, it's like just paying off our minimum on our credit card, right? We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. We want to pay full balance, right? If we can. Power is up again. Through ignorance and delusion, I've broken and degenerate my commitments. Guru, be my savior and refuge. Lord, holder of the Vajra, endowed with great compassion. In you, the foremost of beings, I take refuge. And then restraint. Before Guru Vajrasattva, I vow never again to commit those negative actions from which I can easily abstain. I vow not to commit those negative actions from which I find it difficult to abstain. For, and then you can say, for even 1 minute, okay? Or for even a day, for even an hour, for even 1 minute. Okay. So they say like this, rather than just saying, oh, I vow never again to commit these negative actions, well, then we commit them again. I saw in one commentary that they say, oh, if you do like that, that's lying to the merit field. Now, I kind of disagree with that. Because let's say, for example, your friend smokes cigarettes and they say, I'm going to quit, right? I'm quitting smoking. But then you see them a few days later and they're smoking again. Lying would be, something is not true and you sort of do it, right? So at the time when the friend might have been like very sincere, they thought they were going to quit, but due to weakness, due to the addictive power of nicotine and so forth, they relapse and they smoke again, right? That I don't think is lying, right? Nonetheless, for building momentum in our practice, it's very good to set small goals for ourselves and then be able to do it, right? So if we say, okay, let's say yesterday you killed a mosquito, and now you're like, oh no, shoot, mosquitoes very much annoy you. So you had a momentary lapse and you killed one yesterday, but you say, okay, today I'm not going to. Okay, so then today you don't. Good. Then the next day, okay, today I'm not going to. And then you can build momentum. And then you say, okay, for 1 week, I'm not going to. I think that's how we gain momentum in our practice. Okay. Like when we take the Bodhisattva vows, right? Or whatever kind of vows, we're promising to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that I'll keep these vows until enlightenment, right? So we're sincere in that. We want to. But then, because we have strong afflictions and so forth, we're not always able to do. So anyway, that's different. That scene is different than, like some kind of scheme, like, when I don't know, our parents grounded us and, we couldn't play Nintendo, and they say, oh yeah, now you can't play Nintendo for a week. And you say, yeah, okay, I won't play, but then you play. You know you're going to play as soon as, your mom leaves. You're going to play, and say, yeah, I'm not going to play. That'd be lying, right? Then we think that Guru Vajrasattva says, son of lineage, your negative karmas, obscurations, and broken and degenerated samayas have been completely purified. And this is important to remember. We're saying we should generate strong faith that everything has been completely purified, just as Guru Vajrasattva has said. Then at the end, we absorb Guru Vajrasattva, right? Guru Vajrasattva is extremely pleased with your promise. Vajrasattva, father and mother, melt into light and absorb into you. And then your body, speech, and mind become inseparably one with Guru Vajrasattva's holy body, holy speech, and holy mind. So good to rest in that awareness at the end of the mind, the mind being completely pure, and your mind and Vajrasattva's mind being inseparably one. Here again, meditation on emptiness. And then we dedicate. Okay, we have a little bit of time. So we'll just do this dedication at the end. Yeah. Oh, these are the two verses I mentioned, right, from King of Prayers. Dedicating in the same way as all the Bodhisattvas of the past. Okay. So we also kind of wanted to talk about the Mahayana precepts, right? So basically, you guys should know. There are these preliminary prayers that we do, right? So these preliminary prayers, we've done. We know, no problem with all this, right? Purifying the place. This is in the Shakyamuni Buddha practice, right? Invoking, doing the offering cloud mantra, all this stuff we know. Power of truth, 7 prayer. Nothing new here. Mandala offering, nothing new. That's why we can just go over that. Okay. Then when it comes time for the actual taking on the precepts, we recite these 2 verses from the King of Concentration Sutra. Very good to keep in mind. So comparing all this amazing merit, right? So compare it to offering service and making offerings with all these, food, drink, umbrellas, flags, garlands of light offerings for 10 million eons, numbering the number of sane grands in the Pacific Ocean. So think of how much merit, unbelievable. We talked about how much merit is received from even just giving the medicinal gruel to the 4 ordinary monks, right? We went through all that. So compared to all that merit, unbelievable if you had done this, 1 billion times 10 million. Oh my gosh. Okay. Then to live in one vow for 1 day and night when the Holy Dharma is degenerating and the teaching of the ones gone to bliss are ceasing. So that means now, in our day and age, even keeping one vow for 1 day, we get more merit than all this merit for making offerings to that many Buddhas for that many eons. Okay. Then why do we recite this? Then we get so happy. Oh, wow, I'm so lucky. I'm able to do this practice of taking the minor precepts. And then you recite this 3 times. Okay. This is important. Upon the 3rd recitation, you have to think you've received the vows in your continuum. Okay. Without that, then the vows actually don't generate. They don't arise. Okay. So what these 8 minor precepts are, right? It's not to kill, not to steal, not to engage in sexual activity. So as opposed to the pratimoksha vows, where the vow is against sexual misconduct, here one takes the vow and one is celibate for a day or for however long, you take the vows. And as I mentioned, normally we say here, where is it? Okay. Similar, I, who am called Tenzin Namjong, from this time until sunrise tomorrow. So it says in the commentary, like, for example, in the first 15 days of the new year, those are merit multiplying days, the days of miracles. So you could just on that one day say, from now, from this time until sunrise on the 16th of the Tibetan month. It also says in the commentary, it's very good to do these vows on new moon, full moon, the 8th of the Tibetan month, lunar calendar. You can also say, instead of saying from this time until sunrise tomorrow, you can say, from now, on every new and full moon day, for the next 3 months. You can. If you're doing it that infrequently, it's better to do it those days, right? You're waking up before sunrise. All right, I know it's winter there. Sunrise is a little bit later, so it's not that bad, right? Summer? No, I'm joking. Okay? Not telling lies, avoiding intoxicants, then not sitting on large or high seats and beds. So, normally a high seat is a seat that's higher than a cubit. So from the elbow to the middle finger, okay? Large would be, like luxurious. So here, large, it's not just large, it's like luxurious, like a throne, something like this. Now, you have to understand that this is also a monastic vow. It was created in the time of the Buddha. Now, it also, in terms of the monastic vow, it depends what your motivation is for sitting on such a thing, on such a seat. So a question came up here in India, when you take an overnight train, there's like the stacks, it's like bunk beds. And so one would sleep. If you're on the top bunk, you're on a high seat or bed. So when I asked one of my teachers about that, they're like, "Oh no, don't worry about that at all, right? You're not doing it with a mind like, like sitting on a throne. Like then, everyone will, see me, or this seat will feel really nice. I don't know, one of those like $5,000 massage chairs or something, right? So that's the motivation. If you're sitting on a Dharma throne that's high, it's out of respect of the Dharma, right? So you can do that. Okay, you understand? I will not eat food at the wrong times. So that means afternoon. Normally, when you take the vow for one day, you would only eat one meal. It is a common tradition. If you're taking the vows for a longer period of time, say more than 2 weeks, then one can have breakfast and lunch. So here, just when you're taking the vows, just be very clear about what you're doing. In a similar way, here at the monastery, they serve food, it'll have onions. So within this vow about what foods to eat and not eat, there's also, one should abstain from the so-called black foods, which include onion, garlic, eggs, radish, some of these things. So of course, best if you are preparing your own food, then you can keep those out. But here at the monastery, we also practice like accepting what is given to us. So you can, again, kind of relax this vow and say, okay, I will not eat food at the wrong times. And then in terms of black food, just think, okay, but those, if it's a dal, right, like a lentil dish, and there's onions already mixed in, well, that's what's offered to you. Say, okay, I'm going to just eat what's offered to me. I will avoid perfumes, garlands, ornaments, as well as singing, dancing, and so forth. Garlands is like the flower garland, like a lei. Now, I have seen in the Dalai Lama, you see, like for example, if I'm returning and I go back to Hawaii, hopefully I'll do that this winter. And, at the airport, they used to give out the leis to everyone. Now, of course, due to cost-cutting measures, that's been gone for decades. But, let's say my mother, comes or someone comes and they offer a lei, right? You don't want to then be like, what? No, get out of here. Don't give me that, right? So I've even seen, in India, it's also a tradition to give the flower garland. So I saw His Holiness at a teaching. Then an Indian gave the lei to him. He allowed, the lei to be put around his neck. Okay, accepted it, smiled, took a picture with the person who gave it. Okay, then after that kind of ceremonial, that was done, he then took the lei off and gave it to one of his attendants. Okay, so sometimes you have to be skillful about it, right? In that case, you're not thinking, oh, I'm going to wear this lei so I look good, so I smell nice, or anything like this, right? But rather, so this person who's giving it to me can, feel happy. And probably His Holiness was thinking, so they get the merit of, offering a flower garland, right? As well as singing, dancing, and so forth. Just as arhats never kill and so forth, so I too will abandon killing and so forth. May I quickly attain supreme enlightenment. May I free this world disturbed by much suffering from the ocean of existence. Then here again we have the mantra of pure morality. So we know that. And then we have the dedications. Okay. So we did it. We have 11 minutes for questions and dedication. So are there any? Dana.
Yes. Can you talk a little bit more about what the precepts are for? I think there's sort of this assumption that,
Yeah. Yeah, very good. So it's here in the text, right? So these are the benefits. Thank you, Dana. I should have done this. I planned to do this. So thanks. So these are the benefits of protecting the 8 minor precepts, right? So okay, let's actually start with a little bit broader context. In general, right, there's 8 types of vows. Okay. There's the vows of the fully ordained monk, novice monk, and then there's the fully ordained nun. There's what we call probationary nun, and then the novice nun. Okay, so that's 5. Then we have 5 foreordained people. And then we have the lay male, the lay female, and the one-day vow. Okay. So except for the one-day vow, the other types of vows are taken for life. Okay. Taken for life. Now, maybe it's difficult, right? Some people always say, oh, hey, what is this vow? Abandoning telling lies. I'm negotiating business deals and, people are lying all the time. And so, you have to do this. Otherwise, I'm going to get cheated. Okay. So they have this thought. So since people in worldly activities, they might have to, I don't know, you got to do what you got to do, right? So the Buddha said, all right, for those of you who find it difficult to have these vows for forever, for life, then there's this one-day vow that was instituted. And the thought was on those new moon days, the full moon days, those days actually, it's a kind of mini merit multiplying. I've seen in the text, the merit multiplied those days by 100 times. Okay. Now, why? I heard there are devas, so, good merits, good intention, and they made vows to protect practitioners during this time of the Buddha's, teachings existing on earth. So, especially on the new moon days, full moon days, they come to earth, they kind of watch over, see how people are practicing. And then they go back to the Deva realm and they say, hey, you know what? It's so wonderful. Even in this degenerate time, Mary Ellen is taking the Mahayana precepts today. Dana, she just did her 3 sets of 35 Buddha with prostrations. Okay. Morning and night. And I'll tell you, those students at the Ocean of Compassion Center, all of them, this kind of Tenzin Namjong, he talked about the benefits of memorizing the Buddha's names. All of them have memorized the names. Amazing. And so the other devas, they hear this and they're like, wow, oh, wow. And they're rejoicing, right? So what happens when they rejoice? They get more merit. Okay. So now for us then to be a kind of contributing cause that they then rejoice in our merit, right? We then, that's how the merit is multiplied by 100 times. Okay. Now the other days, these days of miracles, the Sakadava Duchen, Labab Duchen, and the Chukor Duchen, right? These other 4 big events on the Buddhist calendar, merit multiplied by 100 million times. Then in an eclipse, it's multiplied by, also. I've seen different things, 80,000 times for a lunar eclipse. I have seen 100 million times for a solar eclipse. I think so. Anyway, unbelievable benefit. Okay. So the thought is, those of you who can't take precepts for life, at least new moon, full moon, twice a month, you can take precepts, right? You're not working all the time, right? You don't have to engage in business deals. You can take 2 days off. Come on. And devote those days for your practice. So these 2 days in the month, as an example, you're then going to have like a kind of mini retreat. You're going to do as much practice as you can. Okay. So, yeah. The first 5 vows, which are similar to the 5 lay vows, which you take for life, that is fine, right? There's not so much reason to go into that. But the benefit then is in future lives, your life will be long, magnificent, and free from illness. Remember we talked about the ripening effect of killing, right? Then you have short life. Then stealing, right? In this and other, all future lives, you'll have perfect enjoyments, wealth, and others will not harm. Okay? So again, from stealing, you're depriving material possessions. Then by abandoning, you'll get them. Okay? So here, now, as opposed to just merely abandoning sexual misconduct here, we're celibate. Why? Because, hey, for 2 days a month, yeah, you can practice some restraint, right? And then in this life and all future lives, you'll have a good body with beautiful complexion and complete sense organs. Then abandoning telling lies in the future, in this life and all future lives, you'll not be cheated by others, and others will listen to what you say. Abandoning intoxicants, right? You'll have stable mindfulness and awareness, clear senses, and perfect wisdom. Okay. So remember, all this is like the ripening effect congruent with cause. Since intoxicants makes us lose our mind, not only lose our mind, lose our mindfulness. Maybe lose our mind. I don't know how you guys party, but get very dull and all this, then we get the effect in the opposite way, right? Then abandoning large and high seats and beds. So we'll receive praise and respect from others and have proper bedding. Vehicles and animals for traveling. I think this was in the Tibetan commentary, right? They used to, ride on horseback and all that. Then abandoning food at improper times, you'll have abundant food. Abandoning these perfume ornaments, then you'll have a natural, pleasant smell, color, and shape. Abandoning singing and dancing, you'll have a subdued body and mind, and your speech will continually make the sound of Dharma. Okay. So in general, those are the benefits of the particular vows. Then the other thing you should know, or you should recall, because we mentioned this before, then when we are vow holders, then all the other virtue that we accumulate, it also increases in its potency. I had read in one commentary that, if we take Mahayana precepts, then even the other practices we do, they multiply by 100,000 times. Okay. Okay. One other question, maybe? Okay. Well, if not, we can do dedication. So let's see. We can let's do this dedication from the end of the Mahayana precepts, because there's these nice Bodhisattva Charvatara verses. So we'll dedicate due to all the past, present, and future merits collected by me and all the merits of 3 times collected by numberless Buddhas and numberless sentient beings, which are completely empty of existing from their own side. May I, who am completely empty of existing from my own side, achieve Buddhahood, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are completely empty of existing from their own side to that Buddhahood, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, by myself alone, who am completely empty of existing from my own side. And then these verses from Bodhisattva Charvatara. May all beings everywhere plagued by sufferings of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms, deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. As long as space remains, as long as transmigratory beings remain, until then may I too remain, to dispel the suffering of transmigratory beings. Okay, so thank you very much. We'll see you next week. And we'll have the practice session. We'll go through the Shakyamuni Buddha practice. So if you haven't already, please, make sure you've done all the reading, right? And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Venerable Namjong.
Thank you, Namjong.
Thank you, Venerable Palma. Thank you, Marielle. See you, Venerable Palma. Good night.
Bye.
Okay, good night. Bye-bye.